Hey everybody, to Mel.
What's up, guys and ghouls?
Boo.
We are two metalheads. Two metalheads.
So,
So I went and saw, well, I went and saw Nosferatu like opening weekend. So I guess that's 2 weeks ago now.
yeah, it was like Christmas,
And
I think.
I fucking loved it. Thought it was fantastic. Thought it was so good that I went back and saw it again this past Saturday in a different theater. And there is a new Wolfman coming out, which I saw the trailer for that, coming out on January 17th, which is next weekend.
Oh yeah.
And it looks fucking awesome. Um, it looks like a lot of the movie is focusing on the delirium and the dementia you go through when you're turning into a werewolf. And I don't believe I've ever seen that in a werewolf movie before. So it's kind of like a different take on the plot, and I think it looks really cool. So I'm fucking stoked to go see that next Saturday.
Well, like
So
the original Wolfman, like they went through a little bit of how he was like paranoid and sweaty, and
yeah,
I don't know
a
how
little
deep. I
bit.
don't remember that the Wolfman is one of those ones that has been. There's some station that I see it on all the time when I'm going to bed.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I end up like watching it sometimes because, but it,
Isn't
you
there a
don't.
channel called Chiller or something like that?
I think there used to be. I don't know if there is anymore.
That's not a
You,
thing
you don't
anymore.
realize how much patience people had back then for how long in the movie nothing's happening. You know?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. And I still have some patience for that.
If it's
Just because
interesting.
I grew up on the original Universal monster movies
Hmm.
because my mom loved them and used to let me watch horror flicks when I was a kid. So I have the patience, as long as the payoff is cool,
Yeah.
I have the patience to sit through a long fucking way to get there.
Yeah. Sometimes it's a little bit much, but yeah.
True.
But
So it got me thinking, you and I both like monsters. We've actually written songs together about monsters. So let's talk about classic monsters.
yeah. So obviously, like the first, well, if you want to go by movies, the first like monster movie would have been Nosferatu, I think.
Yes.
And
Some people say it's the cabinet of Dr. Caligari.
when was that?
That's just before Nosferatu, but
Nosferatu.
it's
Nosferatu was 1922.
yeah, this is right. This is another silent movie that's right, like literally right before Nosferatu.
Was it a
Maybe it's
monster?
1920 or 21,
Was it a monster
and
movie?
it's really not a monster movie, but people consider it a horror movie.
Okay.
I've watched it like twice, and I don't consider it to be nearly as much of a horror movie as Nosferatu is.
Okay. Well, I then obviously you have so I know for Dracula, um, that was the 30s, and
Yes.
they actually bought the rights to Bram Stoker's story.
Okay.
And Bela Lugosi, they didn't want a well-known actor, I guess. And Bela Lugosi, I guess, was doing a play for Dracula,
Oh,
and he was cheap, which they didn't want to pay a lot for. From what I saw, they didn't want to pay a lot, and they wanted it to be short enough to fit into a double feature.
okay.
So that's how they came up with the original Dracula movie,
Makes sense.
which
Yeah,
I
because
guess,
them old black and white fucking horror flicks are short.
yeah. And, and I guess it like, um, uh, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I was gonna say. Trying to
Yeah,
come.
them old black and whites were fucking short, man. I got Frankenstein around here. Where is it?
Frankenstein was an interesting one because for some reason they didn't consider Dracula horror, but Frankenstein,
Really?
yeah, I don't know why. The Frankenstein was being billed as a horror movie because of how well Dracula did. Like
Huh.
Dracula did so well, they decided to make Frankenstein. And of course, like Frankenstein in the books didn't have the bolts and all that stuff, but they
Right.
redid, and they wanted it also to be made fairly inexpensive, although it was like $300,000, which for back then seems like a lot. You know,
That's a lot of fucking money for um
it was the 30s.
1931.
Yeah, so
That's a lot of money for 1931.
yeah, I think altogether, but it did better than Dracula did. But a lot of the ads, the places wouldn't run them because it was a horror movie
Huh.
back then, apparently, and they wanted things changed in the movie, some of the theaters to show it, and I don't know if they did it or not, but I guess I don't know. You look back on it now, and you're like, "What's the worst thing that happens?" He throws a kid in the water.
That's really literally the worst thing that happens is he kills the kid.
But like other than that,
And you don't even really see it. It's kind of like
no, he just
implied.
chucks her in there like a big dummy.
Yeah.
Like,
It's
yeah,
just kind of implied that she dies.
yeah. So, but apparently he did really well. And then I think the next one they did was The Mummy. But we could talk
Right.
more about so like The Mummy. I think that was after shortly after they found King Tutankhamun's tomb.
Ah, they were trying to be relevant.
Well, yeah, and apparently because a lot of the people that were involved in opening it died shortly after, or within the next
Right.
couple of years.
Yeah,
Curse of the Mummy, you know.
of
Uh,
course. Smart.
yeah, so that worked out. But so I don't remember. Do you remember like Bela Lugosi did Dracula,
Yes.
and then was it Boris Karloff that did Frankenstein?
Boris Karloff was Frankenstein. I believe Boris Karloff was also the mummy.
And then there was
And
Lon
then
Chaney
Lon Chaney
Jr.
Jr. was the werewolf.
But wasn't Bela Lugosi something else also?
Bella Lugosi also did.
Lon Chaney, I
I
know, did a lot of different things too. There's a lot of different Frankensteins also.
I think Bella did a Frankenstein flick.
Maybe, yeah.
Like one of the fucking, the son of the bride of Frankenstein. Like they did a bunch of those
Yeah.
to try to
Well,
capitalize. I think he was in one of those.
from what I saw from like the 1930s to the 50s when these movies were really popular, there was like 40 something movies made.
Mhm.
It was a lot, that's a lot in 20 years, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, not for nothing, the originals are really like where it's at.
Yeah. I mean, but I guess back then, if you're going to follow the story and there's not a lot else to see besides
Oh,
play,
yeah.
so back
Yeah.
then,
If you're into these flicks, you went and saw the bride of the son of the cousin of the fifth fucking person in line of the next of kin of the werewolf.
yeah, you weren't gonna go home and ever see it again.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
You were going to go out and see these flicks and fucking bring a chick with you and try to fucking grab a tit and calm her down.
You can hope.
Yes. Lots of fun.
So
So yeah, I think Boris Karloff might have done a Wolfman too.
I think they did a lot. I think a lot of those guys did multiple different things.
It was like incestuous, like they all kind of did the same
'Cause it
role.
was all
Had the
makeup. Most of it was makeup anyway. Even Bela Lugosi had a lot of makeup on,
Yeah, it's true.
so you didn't really, you didn't really look like. Oh, well, I guess. for Wolfman until he became the Wolfman. He didn't. He was just a regular dude.
Yeah, it didn't fucking matter what he looked like before he changed.
Yeah, but well, yeah, but most of the movie was spent with him not changed.
Right.
So, well, I mean, I don't know about the later ones. The first one was a little bit. It's it's good for what it is, but it did take a while for anything to happen. You know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it takes a bit before you see the change.
Yeah. Nowadays, it's like immediate. It's going to happen
Right.
in the first 20 minutes. You're going to see a Wolfman. Or
Of course.
what? When do you think? Okay, so like the Wolfman had like the flat face,
The
with the
original one, yeah.
yeah, with the like the underbite. And when did that
Right.
change to like it actually looking like a real wolf? Like the head, not like all fours, but like it became like the elongated nose, like what was that movie? American Werewolf. Like it became like more of a wolf. I don't ever understood how they came up with the flat face anyway, even though it looks cool. Doesn't make a
It
whole lot
does
of
look
sense.
cool, but the original werewolf looks more like a fucking dog than a
Yeah,
werewolf can.
it does.
He really just looks like there should be a fucking collar on him and you should be behind him with a fucking duty bag.
It almost looks like a really hairy bat face.
Yeah, kind of.
It's yeah, it doesn't. But I mean, when they redid the Wolfman with what was that guy's name? Benicio. Is that it?
Benicio del Toro.
That was a good one.
That was a pretty good
I
one.
mean, but they did the flat faces and everything too. But it was a good movie.
Right.
You know.
I don't remember. There was a Jack Nicholson werewolf. I think it was just
Oh,
called
yeah,
Wolf. I
yeah,
don't remember what the wolf looked like because I only saw that movie like once.
yeah. I remember the movie, but I don't remember what it looked like either. The Howling to me was always like the best.
Howling is great, but also the one you just mentioned, American Werewolf in London or whatever the fuck,
Yeah, well, yeah.
that one's brutal.
That was a really horror. That was a horror one. It wasn't just a
That
fun
was a
monster
gory one.
movie. And then you remember Silver Bullet?
I just watched that a couple months ago.
That was a cool one. That wolf looked good too.
Yeah, that wolf was fucking great. He wound up being the priest. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, it's 40 years old. If you haven't seen it already, go fuck yourself.
Exactly. It's got Gary Busey in it, so fucking go see it because it's
Yeah,
fucking awesome. But
a
yeah,
young
Christine had
Gary.
never seen that one, so I made her watch that around Halloween time. That movie still holds up. I still like it.
Yeah, I watched not that long ago. You know what I haven't seen that I want to watch because it has all the monsters in it? Monster Squad.
I haven't seen that in
Me neither. I
years.
saw it when I was young, and I haven't seen it in years. And I don't remember if it was a kids movie. Because it does have kid,
Ish.
or is it like a Goonies where it's kids movie, but it's still kind of cool?
It's kind of Goonies meets the original Universal monsters.
They did have the flat face, I think, werewolf, right? No, I don't remember. I remember
No,
Wolfman has.
Wolfman fucking had a like a really convincing werewolf face.
I remember Wolfman has nards,
That's right. Kick him in the Nords. Kick him in the Nords.
and they had the was it Gillman? What was it, Gillyman or Gillman? Whatever the creature from the Black Lagoon.
Gillman. Yeah, I don't think they could call him the creature from the Black Lagoon yet.
Oh no, I think even back in the original creature from the Black Lagoon, it was the Gillman or something.
Oh, that's what they called him.
I think so.
Okay.
That was a weird one because it was like they actually shot a lot of it underwater, which probably was
Yeah,
probably was really hard back then,
I'm sure it was.
especially for
Probably
the
a lot
guy
of
in the
trial
suit.
and error.
Yeah. But so what monster in general? Let's just say, all right, well, here's two questions. Like, what's your favorite monster in general? And what do you think has been the best overall for all the movies, even though that a lot of them didn't, even though like a lot of vampire movies had nothing to do with the other ones. There's a
Right.
shitload of them. There's not a shitload of Creature from the Black Lagoonish movies.
No, there isn't.
There's a few Frankensteins. There's not a ton of them.
There's a couple. There's some that are really not very good.
No, and then there's there's a good amount of werewolf movies. I
Yeah,
don't
there's a
know.
lot of that.
Would you consider, so going off the Universal thing, you have zombies,
Yes.
like Night of the Living Dead.
They're Living Dead from there onwards.
But there's so many of them. There's not just like the Wolfman or Frank, so it's a tough one
Yeah,
to,
there's a billion zombie movies.
yeah. And there's
I
not
was just
one
looking at one
zombie.
on Netflix that's like Korean or some shit. It's called like Zom 13 or something.
Uh, but there's not like Dracula of the zombies, like,
No.
which would be cool if there was like a patient zero,
I guess the original Night of Living Dead sort of is.
No, but I mean, like, out of the vampires, you have Dracula. He's Dracula. He's not just a vampire.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Like a lord of the zombies, like
And
the god.
Frankenstein is Frankenstein. Like, I guess is Frankenstein kind of a zombie? I don't know. No, because he's brought back to life, right?
Yeah, but wouldn't that kind of make him undead?
But is his heart beating? He doesn't eat flesh or brains.
That's true. But yeah, his heart is beating. That's how Dr. Frankenstein knows he's alive.
Yeah, so he's not a zombie.
No, I guess technically not, but he is undead.
Yeah. And then you have the random weird ones like the Invisible Man.
The Invisible Man was kind of lame.
Yeah. And then was that Dorian Gray, or what was the one where the guy like never he always looked good and didn't age, but he had the picture of himself that aged, and
I
so the picture looked like he was really old and the picture looked of him looked horrible. It was like a
I
painting.
think that's Dorian Gray.
I think that's what it is. That was a weird
Yeah,
one. It's almost like a vampire, but not.
right. It's like a vampire, but Benjamin Button.
Yeah, well, kind of. Yeah. Well, so what would your favorite be?
My favorite
Favorite monster.
monster. Uh,
Doesn't have to be based on the movies, just in general.
I'd say overall, I'm more of a fan of vampires
Hmm.
just because, like, they're fucking smart. They can shapeshift. They're not the easiest to kill. It's kind of like you got to go through a lot of shit to kill him, unless know where he's sleeping and you fucking open the coffin real quick and put the stake through his heart. Also because they're like mad suave and they fucking chicks like them.
That was Bram Stoker's kind of thing, right? Like
Yeah,
before that, vampires were like just dead bodies, like feeding off you.
pretty much. Yeah, they were
Yeah.
just dead bodies come back to life that were looking for blood.
Yeah.
Dracula was like real suave, like a ladies' dude, and he was kind of romantic, and he
But
made chicks fall in love with him.
they got away from the shape-shifting thing. Like Dracula shapeshifted and even when they remade the Dracula movie in the 90s with was that Keanu Reeves?
That is a fucking fantastic movie.
It is a good movie. Like Dracula shapeshifts and stuff, but
A
in
lot.
most other vampire movies, they don't shapeshift. Like they'll keep like werewolves around during the day to protect their bodies. They don't
Right,
they don't shapeshift, which is or some of them turn into bats.
right. Which I would consider shape shifting.
Yeah, but not all of them do, which is weird.
True.
It's
But
hard
a
to
lot of them also have the cool ability to like be like, hey, I'm right here in front of you, and fucking boom, now I'm on the other side of the room. I like
yeah,
that.
the speed. Yeah.
Yeah, I like
Yeah.
that.
I would agree with you. Like I think the mummy has stupid powers most of
I mean, the mummy's cool because he can curse you, but eh,
the mummy is a more scary uh creature in the more modern movies with like
The
uh
Brendan Fraser mummy?
yeah, he's a little bit more intimidating than the original.
Definitely.
The original is
He's
just
way more badass. He has more powers.
yeah, the original is like a zombie wrapped up in toilet paper, Like,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
It looks cool and stuff for what it is, but he's really just kind of a fucking lumbering idiot.
Yeah.
He's basically Frankenstein with fucking gauze bandages.
Well, but Frankenstein wants to be your friend.
True. Yeah, Frankenstein just wants to be loved. You know, he wants people to like him. He wants to make friends and stuff. The Wolfman is fucking great because he's always just brutal. He's just fucking full moon, and now it's time to eat.
But he has no control over it.
Right.
At least that
Which
one.
I like.
There are other movies where the I don't know, whatever you want to call it, lycanthrope or whatever, has control over it and can shapeshift whenever they
Yes.
want. It's not just the full
Yes.
moon, like that would be cool to have control over that. And not like I'm gonna lose my mind and not know what I did every full moon.
Right.
You
And being
know,
scared every full moon, like, oh, fuck, a full moon's coming. I'm going to lose my mind.
I'm gonna murder my family. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
I gotta lock myself up in the basement.
I might be in the middle of getting laid and I'm going to fucking shred my girlfriend to bits.
Well, that's okay.
True. At least she's
So
gone afterwards.
yeah, to shoot and scoot. Um,
Exactly.
so, but then you're talking like the lycanthropes from like, oh, what was that movie with the it's like the werewolves versus the vampires, Underworld.
Twilight?
No, no, not those ones. Underworld. I don't like those werewolves because they weren't actually werewolves and they just turned into big wolves.
The Twilight ones or
Yeah, the
Underworld?
Twilight ones just turned into big wolves.
Okay.
And
I
apparently
never watched any of the Twilight flicks. I always thought they were a little too femme.
they are, but they were. It was weird because they were like technically shapeshifters and they just happened to land on werewolf for some reason. I don't know. Or wolf, but they never
Okay.
turned into like werewolves. They turned into wolves. They were just
Yeah.
giant wolves.
In Underworld, it was literally vampires versus werewolves,
Yeah. And they were,
which was dope.
but that was the weird thing. Like they had the original werewolf had no control. But then there was some sort of hybrid offshoot that had control over themselves.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, they bent the rules.
well, no, I mean like in the movie, the original werewolf in Underworld, like they go back to the origin. The original one had no control. He was always a werewolf. He had no control over any of his impulse. Like he was just a wolf. And then somehow, at some point, and I don't remember how they explain it in the movies, there was one that got created that had control over it. And most of them after that, if you were bitten by the original werewolf, you had no control over anything. But if you were bitten by this one that somehow got control, you became like him. It was a weird.
Oh,
I don't remember how it happened like that. And so the vampires, I think, used the one that had control. They were like their slaves for a while. Like if you, there's like a couple different Underworld movies, and I liked them all. They were all good.
yeah, I know there's definitely at least three or four of them, right?
Yeah, I think there's definitely three. There might be four, but I don't remember. But they go into more detail with that kind of stuff.
Is
But
that because the vampires and the werewolves didn't they start like race mixing?
that's where a lot of I think that's where a lot of the problems started was like a vampire and a werewolf fell in love, and then they found out and put the vampire out in the sun and let her die.
Yes.
Yeah, and then that started the war, I think. But also the werewolves were their slaves, or the vampire slaves for a long time too, and they finally broke free, so that probably didn't help either. But so
Did the
that's
vampires have to go on a long apology tour about it afterwards? Eh,
Where's your bell?
I'm not using it
No,
anymore
it doesn't
because I've
work
gone
anyway.
back and listened to episodes where I ring it and you cannot fucking hear it at all. So
No.
lame.
So yeah, I think I would agree with you though. Like vampires are probably the coolest.
Yeah, I just always dug vampires more because, all the reasons I listed. They're just smarter, they're cooler, they're ladies' men.
They have powers,
Their
but
powers are fucking dope.
there are a lot of stupid vampire movies.
Yes.
When it comes to movies, I feel like there's a lot less werewolf movies, but a lot of them are good. There's probably some
Yeah.
shit ones too, but I haven't really seen a lot of that. That's the problem too, is like you could always find a vampire movie you've never seen before, but the odds of it being good. But finding a lot of werewolf movies, there's not a lot to like. You know what was cool? Remember, I don't know, we would have been little at the time. There was a show on like Fox, and it was called Werewolf, and it didn't even make it through the first season. And like the main guy had like a pentagram in his hand, and he was a werewolf. And it was like
I don't remember that.
it was like the Incredible Hulk, but werewolf, and he's going to town. Like it was really cool.
Okay.
You could probably find a couple. I have a DVD of a couple of the episodes. They canceled it like mid-season, and I really liked the show. I remember as a kid,
Yeah.
I was a weird kid, but I thought it was really good as a kid, and then it never like they never did anything. There's like 6 episodes, and they canceled it.
I remember a vampire series. I believe it was called The Kindred.
That sounds familiar.
And I think it definitely made it through season one. It might have only been two seasons, but I remember me and my mom watching that, and I thought that was pretty cool back then. I haven't gone back and tried to find episodes, but I remember back then it was pretty good.
It's probably on Amazon or something.
I'm sure it's probably on YouTube.
Maybe, yeah.
I think it was like a Fox show, and it was just like quick in and out, season, 2 seasons, maybe season and a half.
Maybe it was around the same time because I'm talking the 80s. This show was on. It might
I'm
have
thinking
even.
like early to mid 90s was the
Oh, okay.
vampire one.
Yeah, this might have even been called Werewolf. Like I don't. It was.
Could be. I don't remember that.
Yeah, most people don't, but I really liked it. But I don't know. There's so many. Am I missing? Are we missing some? Like, was there something we're missing?
I really liked, even though it was considered a little femme, I liked the interview with the vampire movie.
Oh, I liked it. I remember it being. I remember like oh, it was a long time ago. I was on a date, and I remember like, oh, we were gonna watch a movie. I was like, oh, Interview with the Vampire is not so bad. It's it's a good vampire movie. It's not too crazy. Within the first like 20 minutes, I was like, oh, there's a lot more blood and stuff in this. And I remember we ended up having she couldn't take it and we had to turn it off.
Yeah,
And I was like, this is a lot more violent than I remember it being.
it does get pretty fucking violent.
I mean, when they bite, like they had I think it was the hookers, and they had one of them like in the table, and there's like blood
Yeah,
pouring out of their neck, and I was like, oh, this is. I remember this being more like chill than it actually
a little
is.
more civilized.
Yeah, and it wasn't. It was brutal. I'm like, okay.
There's some great fucking kills in that flick.
The TV show they got kind of cheesy. They completely changed although I didn't read the book, so I don't know which one is closer to the way they did it. But like I wanna say they made the original they made the main vampire. I I think they made him gay.
Oh,
It's just fine if that was the way it was written, but I don't know if he was written that way or not, like from the books. Uh,
he
I,
was always kind of like you questioned it,
that's fine. Yeah, I thought maybe both.
but there was never a thing where it's like, oh, Lestat is gay. It was just you kind of questioned it because even in the original movie with Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt, you do question it a little
Yeah,
bit.
definitely. But then they did them. Did you see they had the second movie, it was Lestat.
I didn't see that, but I did
He was
see
like a
Queen of the
rock.
Damned, which is related.
I think Queen of the Dam was the second one where he was like a rock star kind of.
Yes.
Yeah, that was that one. Yeah.
Yeah. That was pretty good.
Yeah.
Not terrible. The soundtrack was really good. Pantera was fucking on the soundtrack for that.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, no, that was good. And like, but that's the thing, like they always made like a lot of vampires were kind of like, you wouldn't be surprised if they went either way.
True.
But I don't see that's the thing, like when it comes to making movies or TV shows from a book, I, I don't like when they go so far away from the book just to make it like, well, this is what we want to get this message across. And it's like, well, I don't care about your message. That's not what the book was, you know.
Right.
But I didn't read the book, so I don't know. Maybe in the books he was a little bit more feminine than maybe in the original movie because in the '90s that wasn't something you were gonna push.
Yeah. And you weren't going to get Tom Cruise to fucking act as a homosexual in a movie at that point
Or
either.
Brad Pitt, yeah.
Or Brad Pitt. Yeah, exactly.
Like making it questioning was okay, but that's the thing. I don't know. Maybe in the book it was less of a question. I don't know.
The only time you really never questioned a vampire for me is with Christopher Lee.
Oh yeah, but he had no sexuality. He was just killing.
He was just brutal.
Yeah. Well,
He
that
was all about just fucking drinking blood. He
Salem
was
was
a
Lot too.
little kind of fucking suave and romantic, a little bit to get the chicks to kill him,
Yeah.
but he was really just fucking ruthless. That's my favorite Dracula.
Because they did a show not that long ago on Netflix. I think it was Dracula, and it was like 2 or 3 episodes. 'Cause they were long, and it was pretty good. And it was like he's super suave and everything, but it was always manipulative. You know?
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
that's kind of how it's supposed to be, I think.
yeah, I would say. Yeah.
I used to know a dude, couple of guys that did LARPing. You know what I'm talking about? Like fucking D&D and shit.
Live action role playing.
So they would do that, but it wasn't D&D, it was Vampire the Masquerade.
Oh, they had a video game for that too.
Yes, he did. Um and these guys would LARP and they talked about it all the fucking time and they would specifically pick the vampires that were like the most mentally manipulative to be the characters. But then they brought that into real life and they were fucking pieces of shit. Like always starting drama, like the kind of people where like if there's nothing wrong, that's wrong.
Hmm.
So they kind of like it was like LARPing made them cunts. But that is a thing with vampires is they're supposed to manipulate you.
Yeah. I mean, I played D&D when I was younger, but
Me too.
it wasn't live action role playing. It was you were sitting, it was kind of like a board game in your head.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I played it on the internet and it was all just text.
Yeah, text. Yeah.
It was all just text. So you had to imagine everything in your head, what
Yeah.
was going on. I was an asshole in that though. I used to just kill people just to kill them. Like I had a character that was a dragon
Huh.
and he was a copper dragon and he breathed acid breath. So he could just fucking spit at you and turn you into a fucking puddle of fucking bullshit. So I would just fucking be like, hey, what's going on? Hey, dude, what's going on? Whoosh. And fucking just kill this dude because I could,
You dick.
just to get his hit points and fucking run his pockets.
uh, well,
I also really liked um as far as vampire movies are concerned, yeah, that Bram Stoker's Dracula with fucking Keanu Reeves.
That was a good one.
Gary Oldman was so fucking good in that.
The original
And
Blade
yeah,
was
all
good too.
those Hammer horror films with Christopher Lee playing Dracula was the shit. And there's a Hammer horror where Christopher Lee plays the mummy that's really good too.
Yeah, he did a lot of Christopher Lee did a lot of like he did a lot of Draculas too, I think.
There's a ton of them.
Yeah.
There's at least a dozen of them. I
Those
have
were
like a DVD with fucking like 4 or 5 of them. There's one, it's like Dracula 1976 or whatever.
yeah, they're all
And it's
70.
like, it's all discoed out and shit. And it's like Dracula killing all these fucking disco queens. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah, that he was the 70s, so that was way later on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
wonder
but he
like
was the best though.
I wonder if those guys that played the monsters in the original ones were like big dudes or you
I
know,
don't think so.
because nowadays if you're gonna play a monster, they always want the big, tall, jacked guy.
You got to be fucking Jason Momoa.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I can't find
Unless
that
you're gonna play
fucking.
Chucky.
Yeah, then you could be the fucking former drummer of Left and Ruins. Um, that
Oh,
little
boy.
shit.
Well, I think
So if you had, what are
yeah,
we
yeah,
running out of time?
yeah.
Okay, we'll come back for part two.
Yeah, well maybe we'll come up with some good things to talk like some specific things to talk about. But what's your favorite horror monster? Maybe there's some movies that we're not even mentioning right now, or some, yeah, right down there below us.
Blow us and leave a comment who your favorite monster is.
Yeah, maybe
Like and subscribe.
recommend some movies.
Yeah, yeah.
Some
Give me some
monsters.
fucking vampire movies I never heard of.
Yeah,
Abraham
werewolves.
Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
That's a good one. I saw that one. I like that. I read those
Yeah,
books too. But
hell yeah.
all right, two metalheads.
Bruce.